Sherm Chester with you on this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum podcast, the Notebook Edition. This time I'd like to review some of the other sports and where they're stacking up, and then we'll get to football. Field hockey. Right now in field hockey, the top dog is Bedford. The Bulldogs are 13-1-1. Keene, the Blackbirds, they're 12-1-1. And looking for the Seacoast teams, Winnacunnet at 10-2-2 in the middle of the pack, along with Dover at 10-4-1, and the Exeter Bluehawks there at 8-7. Now it's Division One. In Division Two, the Oyster River Bobcats with an 11-2-1 record. They're in fifth position, about middle of the pack. And in D3, coming in third position at St. Thomas, they have a 10-2-0 record. And leading the pack there, by the way, is Berlin in Division Three. They have a 12-1-1 record. They're tied for the top spot with Hopkinton, and they have a 12-1-1 record as well. That's girls field hockey. Now let's go to girls soccer. Let's go to D1, the Exeter Bluehawks. Meg Young has the Bluehawks at 11-1-0, leading the pack. Pinkerton right behind him with a 9-0-2 record, and Nashua North 10-1-0. And Bishop Girton rounding out the top four positions with an 11-1-1 record. D2, that is Hollis Brookline with an 11-0 record. And D3, it's Stevens with a 13-0 record. Campbell, the Cougars, 12-0. Raymond at 11-0. And St. Thomas Aquinas at 10-1-1. And in D4, in fifth position, the Portsmouth Christian team with a 10-2-0 record. That's girls soccer. Now let's move on to boys soccer. In D1, it's the Nashua South guys at 11-0-1. Bishop Girton at 9-0-2. Bedford 9-0-4. Those are the top three. In the middle of the pack, the Exeter Bluehawks with a 5-4-3 record, and Winnacunnet with a 3-6-3 record. In D2, it's Oyster River, the Bobcats with an 11-0 record, and in D3, St. Thomas, their record is 10-1-1. D4, Epping 13-1-0, leading the pack, and Newmarket right behind him at 12-1-1. That's in boys soccer. All right, let's get down to it. Football was an interesting week in football. Big game, as Roger Brown called it last week, the battle at the beach. Winnacunnet Warriors hosting the Manchester Memorial Crusaders. Crusaders undefeated going into the contest. Memorial needing the win because that obviously is going to play when it comes to the final standings. And guess what? I thought it was going to be a slugfest. I really thought that Memorial, with their firepower, would come out on top. I was surprised. The final score, 30-27 in favor of the Winnacunnet Warriors. And even Jay Pinsino, when we do our predicting, thought Memorial might have the leg up in that contest. So surprise, surprise, a good surprise for the Warriors fans. And now going into the final three games of the season, it could be interesting because the Bluehawks are playing Spaulding this week, but they do wrap up the regular season. Final regular season game is against Manchester Memorial, so that could have more repercussions on the final standings. Okay, so we'll get to that in a while. Let's finish up. Exeter Bluehawks had a bounce back good game against the Dover Green Wave. Final score there was 14-0. We'll get to more on that in a few minutes, but now they take on the Spaulding Red Raiders this weekend. The Winnacunnet Warriors, they have a non-conference game. They'll be playing in Bangor. They have to travel all the way up to Bangor, Maine for their non-conference game. The Bluehawks will be doing their non-conference game 2 weeks, not this weekend, but next weekend at home at William Ball Stadium. They'll be taking on the Portland Bulldogs. Those, again, don't figure into the standings. The Bulldogs are going to be a tough team for the Bluehawks to play. No doubt about it. A good test going into that final regular season game for them against Manchester Memorial. So a really exciting finish coming up. And we're going to talk with Coach Rich Kane in a minute to get his take on the Dover game and also what's coming up. But before we go there, let's just take a quick look at the standings. Again, Pinkerton right now is leading the Central. They're undefeated still. They're the Machine, 6-0. The other division, that's the West Division, the Bedford Bulldogs, they're riding hot and heavy, 5-0. Bishop Girton and Nashua South right behind them at 4-1 in the standings. You know, to me, Bedford and Pinkerton obviously are the two teams heading for a collision, and we'll see how that one comes out. All right, let's get down to a look at what we saw this past weekend for the Exeter Bluehawks. I like to call this check down with Coach Kane. Rich Kane is not only the freshman Bluehawk coach, but he's also the broadcaster, part of the broadcast team for the Exeter Bluehawks, and that's the Bluehawk Media on YouTube. Let's get his take. What did he think after we had a 14-0 win, which was a good win, but was it enough? And where do we go from here, Rich?
It wasn't. I expected more from Exeter in this game, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought the score was going to be significantly higher than that. And it turns out to be a battle in the game. I mean, 11-0 for the majority of the game until right at the end when we get another field goal, but we couldn't score when we needed to. I mean, the win is nice. A victory is a victory, but I'm not so sure everybody's walking away going, we've turned a corner in the season. You know what I mean? So we just got to keep at it. Got to go after Spaulding next week.
And it was good to see a couple of our players that have been dinged up back in the game tonight, like Corzat.
Yeah, Corzat was huge tonight. He's over 100 yards running again. He's definitely a difference maker when he's in the game. He's only playing on one side of the ball right now until he kind of recoups a little bit more, but he was definitely a factor today. He's just a hard runner, good guy to have on your offense. So, and defensively, we played pretty well. I mean, we kept them out of the end zone. We kept them from scoring. A couple of key interceptions, but I don't know if you noticed that in the game, the quarterbacks changed pretty quick for Dover, and no one really knows why that happened. And young kid, sophomore, goes in there and makes some ill-advised throws on two drives that they had going, and they both ended on an interception.
Yeah, that's the problem with passing, obviously, and especially if you're not confident what you're doing and you're scrambling. That was one of those turnovers for Dover was on a scrambled pass.
Right.
And
he was being grabbed from the back, and he, instead of just dropping it or hitting the ground with it and playing the next play, he tried to make a play. And actually, in the beginning of the game, Dover ran the ball fairly well. Kind of surprised us all here in the booth. We're expecting the spread offense. We're expecting them to chuck it down the field, and they ran it pretty well against the Exeter's defense.
Spaulding Red Raiders up next. What do you think? What can we expect there?
Dover came in here at 1-4 and played us toe to toe. So yeah, I'd like to expect them a breakout game and a 5 touchdown, grind it out on the game and keep them out, but you never know. This is a team that's going to have to play hard every single week to stay in it and get into the playoffs and do some damage.
All right, we'll see how it shakes out against the Spaulding Red Raiders. The backs were doing their business. It's good to see Luca Theos back there picking one off, and Will Tobin picked off a pass in that game. So just keep up the good work, gentlemen. Keep it up, and defense is starting to tighten it up. And that's what it really counts now. Getting that defense tightened up. UNH, their season now 3-3, 1-1 in the CAA. They lost to the Rhode Island Rams. Final score 38-27. Upside of the game, Matt Vezza, the quarterback, 2 passing TDs for 193 yards, and the guy rushed for 54 yards. So he's getting the job done. Unfortunately, just things aren't jiving right now. Now, this next contest is up against Campbell. The Fighting Camels. The Fighting Camels. I've heard of spitting camels, smoking camels I've heard of, but not fighting camels. That's interesting. Anyway, that is going to be the weekend contest on the road for the UNH Wildcats, and then they come back and they'll be taking on William and Mary. That will be in 2 weekends. Patriots, well, I mean, Drake May, is he going into the Hall of Fame? Hey, right now, he's showing off. He's showing he's got the tools in the toolkit. Like I keep using that expression, but it's true. And he can pass. He's not afraid. He's not dancing. He hasn't got happy feet. He's thinking out there. That's good. Now, if he can only get the running game going, and that's not his problem, you got 2 guys behind him that just don't seem to be getting any traction. It's very important that the Patriots get their running game together because that obviously opens it up for Drake May even more. It was a good win, 25-19 over the New Orleans Saints, and the Titans are up next. They're going to be going to Tennessee to take on the Titans, who just lost their head coach, and so that could be kind of a team to be taken advantage of. And I'm surprised. I mean, I have to admit, when the season started, I thought, well, 9 would be a good benchmark for a successful season. Now you look at the Buffalo Bills. They just lose their game Monday Night Football contest against the Atlanta Falcons. So is the magic off for the Buffalo Bills? Is the division open? Probably not. But on the other hand, there's a chance that we could take and have a second win against Buffalo later in the year. We'll see. We'll see. Everything is up in the air, literally. But Drake May is proving that he's not afraid and he can get the job done. I just hope he stays healthy. The road to the World Series is underway. We got through all the preliminary rounds, and the Dodgers and the Brewers are going at it for the chance to go to the World Series for the National League, in the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners. Now, I'm a American League guy normally, even though I have been a fan of the Milwaukee Brewers for years. So I'm pulling for them, obviously, over Roger Brown's Los Angeles Dodgers. When it comes to the American League teams, Toronto and Seattle, Toronto was the best team overall as far as their record, and Seattle, they have some name brands out there, not as many as the Dodgers, but this catcher of theirs, Cal Raleigh, I mean, wow. Leading the home runs all season long and the home run derby all season long. It's going to be interesting. I think when it comes to the networks, who gets in really plays whether it's a successful World Series on television. I think they're hoping that it'll be Toronto and Los Angeles. I think that's what the networks would like to see. Or Seattle and Milwaukee. Because if you get two teams from the West Coast, it kind of throws things off balance. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Go Brewers. And for the 2-minute drill, I just wanted to say congratulations to the Exeter High School Bluehawk class of 1965. They celebrated their 60th reunion with us at that Dover-Exeter game the other night. And they also, a bunch of them were part of the three-peat championship teams. The Bluehawks had the Division III championship in both 63, 64, and 65. So there were a lot of those guys in the stands along with their wives and a couple of cheerleaders from that team too. All right. So good health and keep on keeping on. That does it. I think we'll wrap things up here. And don't forget, if you're enjoying the podcast, please pass the word. We're on all the major podcast platforms. Also, we have a sister program, a sister podcast. It's called the Seacoast Forum. It's just a fun podcast. We don't get controversial. We talk about pop culture things. It's me and Coach Bill Taylor. We talk about things like music. He's an aficionado of anything on vinyl. We talk about movies, television, just anything that's fun to talk about. Give us a try. Listen to the Seacoast Forum. It's also available wherever you get your podcast, or as I like to say, on all the major podcast platforms. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum podcast.